Hello, and welcome to OpalRoseOracle. I'm adeshpurankaur. So good to be here with all of you today. Welcome to another story time where we continue our journey with Changing Woman and her sisters. So good to be here with all of you. We're going to continue our tale with the story of Inanna, the queen of heaven and earth. This is for all ages, but if your little ones are here, this is especially a story time for them. So grab your blankets, your water, whatever you like, and get cozy as we journey into the story of this Sumerian goddess. Inanna, queen of heaven and earth, an ancient Sumerian goddess. The myth of Inanna may be more than 4,000 years old. It comes from the ancient civilization of Sumer, situated in the valley between the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers in modern-day Iraq. This area is known as the cradle of civilization because it is the first place in the world where people practiced the art of agriculture and built great cities. The Sumerians worshipped Inanna, the goddess of the morning and evening star. Her special city was the city of Uruk, where a great temple was built in her honor. She was responsible for introducing agriculture to humankind, and she was also a goddess of fertility. The Sumerians wrote their myths on clay tablets, which were later found by archaeologists. Modern scholars have spent many years deciphering the tablets that tell the myths of Inanna. Get another good look at her. The queen of heaven and earth. If you're ready, we'll dive in. In the first years, the very first years, when everything needed was brought into being, Inanna decided to go visit her grandfather Enki, the god of wisdom. She set sail in the boat of heaven and sailed across the sea to Enki's palace. Enki saw her coming and was pleased. How beautiful she was. When Inanna arrived at the door to his palace, he greeted her respectfully. He offered her cakes and honey, and Inanna ate. He gave her beer to drink, and together Inanna and Enki drank many pitchers of beer until they were drunk. Inanna, my most beautiful granddaughter, what shall I give you? Enki asked her. Inanna, I will give you my wisdom. I will give you power over the people of earth. I will give you my crown of kingship. Inanna looked into her grandfather's eyes. I accept, she said. But Inanna, I will give you more. I will give you power over all of heaven. I will give you the most sacred throne of the gods and the scepter of rulership. Inanna smiled. I accept, she said. Dearest child, Inanna, Enki continued, I will give you the art of planting and harvesting. I give you the art of the shepherd, the potter, the weaver. The lion and the leopard will come when you call them. I accept, said Inanna. Then Enki, most powerful of the gods, fell into a deep and drunken sleep. Inanna loaded her gifts onto the boat of heaven, and swiftly she rode back to the city Uruk. When Enki awoke, he looked about for his crown of kingship. He looked for the throne of the gods. He looked for the art of planting and harvesting, of shepherding and potting and weaving. But all his treasures were gone. Where is my sacred throne? Where is my crown? Where are my secret arts? Enki asked his servant Izimund. My lord, you have given them to your granddaughter Inanna, Izimund answered. Go quickly and bring them back, Enki cried in dismay. Enki's servant Izimund found Inanna rowing the boat of heaven up the river Euphrates. My master says you must return the gifts he has given you, he told her. And Inanna grew angry. My grandfather lied to me? He said these gifts were mine, and now he wants to change his mind. Tell him I will not give them back, she answered, and she kept rowing. Izimund returned to Enki's palace with Inanna's message. Now Enki sent an army of wild dragons to bring back his treasures by force. Inanna saw the wild dragons flying toward her. She called to Nishubar, her loyal servant. Ninshubar, dearest friend, help me now. Save the boat of heaven and the treasures my grandfather Enki promised me. Nishubar stood on the wall of Inanna's sacred garden. She raised her arms in the air and screamed. Her scream sent the wild dragons hurtling back to their dens. Inanna rowed her boat safely into her city. She gave her people the art of planting and harvesting, of shepherding and potting and weaving. She put the crown of kingship upon her head, and she sat on the throne of the gods. When Enki learned that Inanna had escaped his army of wild dragons, he gave her his blessing. Inanna, you may keep the gifts I gave you, he told her. Let them stay in your city. The people of Uruk will prosper. Your fields will be fertile. Your animals will bear many young. There will always be friendship between earth and heaven. The citizens of Uruk planted grain and harvested bushels of wheat and flax and barley. They wove fine linen clothes. They shaped beautiful pots and cups from clay. Dates and almonds and pistachio nuts grew in their orchards. Their sheep and goats gave birth to lambs and kids. Inanna married the shepherd Dumuzi, and he became king. All of the city celebrated their marriage. Their gardens were overflowing with flowers. Goats produced more milk than the people could drink. The sheep gave birth to triplets. The pomegranate trees grew heavy with fruit as Inanna and Dumuzi walked together through their orchards. Inanna gave birth to 2 sons, Shara and Lulal. They grew tall and strong. The people of Inanna's city tilled their fields and tended their flocks. The fields of Inanna's kingdom were thick with grain. The sheep and goats had plenty of green grass to eat. Their milk was sweet as honey. The lion and the leopard came out of the wild forests to sit by Inanna's side, and she gave them milk to drink. The rains came and watered the new seeds. The sun shone brightly and warmed the young seedlings. But Inanna was not happy. She was restless. When she walked through her holy garden, she hardly noticed the flowers growing there. When the birds sang to greet the new day, she didn't hear them. Inanna wanted to visit her sister Arishkagal, the queen of the dead. Inanna wanted to see the land of the dead from which no one returns. My grandfather Enki went to the underworld, she said to herself, and he returned. If my grandfather Enki can go, then so can I. Arishkagal's husband, Gugalana, had died. Arishkagal mourned for her husband. I will go to comfort my sister, Inanna told her servant Ninshubar. I will go to Gugalana's funeral. No, Inanna, don't go. Ninshubar warned her mistress. No one returns from the land of the dead. If you go, you will die as well. I will return, Inanna said. I am queen of heaven and earth. I can go anywhere, even to the great below. But Ninshubar, wait for me here. If 3 days pass and I have not returned, tell all the world to mourn for me. Go to the gods and beg them to rescue me. Then Inanna prepared herself for the descent to the great below. She put the shining crown of heaven upon her head. She fastened a necklace of lapis beads around her neck. She slipped a golden bracelet on her wrist. She wrapped herself in a cloak of stars. She slipped on her silver shoes. She took her lapis measuring rod in her hand. She journeyed to the outer walls of the underworld and knocked loudly upon the gate. Who is there? The gatekeeper called out. It is I, Inanna, come to visit my sister Arishkagal. Let me pass. If you wish to enter the underworld, give up your crown, the gatekeeper commanded. And Inanna gave him her crown, and she continued to the second gate. What do you want? The second gatekeeper demanded. I want to see my sister, Arishkagal, queen of the great below. Give me your shoes, and I will let you pass, the gatekeeper growled. Inanna gave him her shoes. Barefoot and bareheaded, she went on to the third gate. Where are you going? The keeper of the third gate asked her. I am going to comfort my sister Arishkagal, whose husband Gugalana has died, Inanna answered. Give me your golden bracelet, and I will let you pass, hissed the gatekeeper. Inanna gave him her bracelet. She continued on her way. She came to the fourth gate and knocked loudly. Why are you here? The keeper of the fourth gate asked her. I am here to visit your queen, Ereshkigal the Fair. Inanna replied, if you wish to enter the great below, give me your pretty necklace, the fourth gatekeeper insisted. What could she do? Inanna gave him her necklace of lapis beads, and she continued down to the great below. The fifth gatekeeper asked for her measuring rod, and Inanna gave it to him. The sixth gatekeeper took her cloak of stars. Naked and cold, Inanna passed through the seventh gate. She entered the chamber of the mighty Ereshkigal. Ereshkigal sat upon her throne. Around her neck she wore a necklace of human skulls. Upon her head she wore the crown of death. Her eyes were empty sockets, as black as onyx. She turned her empty eyes to Inanna. Who are you? She whispered. Why have you come? Ereshkigal, Inanna cried. It is your sister, Inanna. Don't you remember me? I've come to comfort you. Inanna held out her empty hands and started towards her sister. Ereshkigal let out a howl of rage. She struck Inanna with cold, bony hands stronger than iron. She struck all the life out of her. Then she picked up her sister's corpse and hung it outside her door. In the world above, 3 days had passed. Inanna had not returned. Ninshubar began to beat the temple drums. Inanna, your queen, is gone to the land of the dead. She proclaimed to the people, weep for your queen, who is lost in the great below. The citizens of Uruk wept for their queen. Ninshubar ran swiftly to the island of the gods. Inanna is gone, she told first one god and then another. Inanna is lost in the great below. When wise old Enki heard the news, he was deeply troubled. What has my granddaughter done? He cried. How could Inanna, star of the evening, star of the morning, be lost in the great below? It cannot happen. Enki scraped some dirt from under his fingernails. He rolled it into 2 small creatures, tiny as 2 houseflies. He breathed on the creatures with the breath of life. He gave them food of life to eat and the water of life to drink. Then he told them, go to the underworld and bring my granddaughter Inanna back to us. The 2 little creatures understood. They flew away to the underworld. They slipped through the cracks in the door and entered Ereshkigal's throne room. Ereshkigal lay on her throne weeping and moaning. All the dead souls were eating up her insides. It hurt her. Oh, my belly, she said with a sigh. Oh, your poor belly, said the tiny creatures with a sigh. Oh, my head, wailed Ereshkigal. Oh, your poor head, wailed the tiny creatures. Oh, my heart, moaned the queen of death. Oh, your poor heart, moaned the tiny creatures. Ereshkigal looked at the tiny creatures in amazement. "Who are you?" she asked them. "Who would come to this dark and lonely place to comfort me? I thank you for it. Let me give you a gift. Give us the corpse that hangs on a hook outside your door," cried the tiny creatures. "Take it," Ereshkigal said. The tiny creatures sprinkled Inanna with the water of life. They fed her the food of life. Inanna awoke. She began to climb from the underworld. "Wait!" cried a terrible voice. Inanna stood frozen. She could not move. The demons of the underworld held her fast. "No one leaves the underworld unmarked," they taunted her. "If you wish to leave here, you must send another in your place." Inanna climbed up from the underworld, but the demons clung to her side. Inanna left the underworld and returned to her city of Uruk, surrounded by demons. Just outside the palace gates, Inanna found Ninshubar lying in the dust. She was weeping because she believed Inanna had died. "Walk on, Inanna," said the demons. "We will take Ninshubar in your place." "No!" she cried, "not Ninshubar. Ninshubar is my dearest friend, my constant support, my wise advisor, and my warrior. When I did not return from the land of the dead, it was she who called upon the gods to rescue me. It was she who reminded my people to mourn me. No, I will never give you Ninshubar." "Walk on, Inanna," said the demons. "We will go with you to the palace." Inside the palace gates, Inanna found her son Shara lying in the dust, weeping for his mother because he believed she was dead. When Shara saw Inanna, he threw his arms about her knees. "Walk on, Inanna," hissed the demons. "We will take Shara in your place." "No!" cried Inanna, "not Shara. He is my son who sings hymns to me, my comfort and my joy. I will never give you Shara." "Very well, Inanna," whispered the demons. "Walk on, and we will come with you." Inanna passed through the palace courtyard. There she saw her son Lulal, dressed in rags of mourning, with ashes on his face. He was weeping because he believed his mother was dead. When he saw Inanna, he threw himself at her feet. "Walk on, Inanna," hissed the demons. "We will take Lulal in your place." "No!" cried Inanna, "not my son Lulal. Lulal is a leader among men. He is my right arm and my left arm. I will never let you take Lulal." "Very well, Inanna. Walk on to your sacred garden. We will go with you." Inanna walked through the palace and entered her sacred garden. There she saw her husband, Dumuzi, sitting on her throne of heaven. He was wearing his most splendid royal robes. He was playing a merry tune upon his reed pipe. Inanna saw her husband Dumuzi did not weep for her. While she wandered alone in the land of the dead, he had hardly noticed that she was gone. Inanna grew hot with anger. She looked on Dumuzi with eyes of death. "Take him," she cried. "Take Dumuzi in my place." The demons broke Dumuzi's pipe into pieces. They seized him by the legs and threw him on the floor. They beat him and struck him with axes. Dumuzi let out a wail. He called up to heaven to his brother-in-law Utu, god of justice and mercy. He begged Utu to help him escape the demons. Utu, god of the sun, took pity on Dumuzi. Utu changed him into a snake. Now the demons could no longer hold him, and the snake slid away. Dumuzi ran from the demons, but they pursued him. He ran to his sister Geshtinana's house, but the demons were close behind him. Dumuzi ran and hid himself in the home of his friend. But when the demons came looking for him, his friend was afraid and pointed out where Dumuzi was hiding. The demons seized Dumuzi, but Utu changed him into a gazelle. In the shape of a gazelle, Dumuzi ran back to Geshtinana's house. He hid with the sheep and the goats in her pen. But the demons found him, seized him, and held him fast. They dragged him away to the land of the dead. The city of Uruk mourned for Dumuzi the shepherd. The people of Uruk wept for their king. Inanna, no longer angry, wept for her husband. Geshtinana wandered about the city, looking for her lost brother. "Oh, where is he? Where is he?" she cried again and again. "Let me go with Dumuzi. Let me share my brother's fate." Inanna was touched by Geshtinana's grief. She took her hand and spoke to her gently. "Geshtinana, I do not know where Dumuzi is. If I knew, I would send you to him. But he is gone. The demons have taken him, and I don't know where." A little fly heard them talking and flew around their heads. "If I tell you where to find Dumuzi, what will you give me?" he asked Inanna. "Oh, little fly, if you can help me find my husband, every kitchen in the world will be your home. I will let you live in the taverns and inns. I will let you rest in the company of the wise and powerful. When the finest musicians play, you will be there to hear their music," Inanna replied. So the fly told them where to find Dumuzi on the windswept plains in the kingdom of Ereshkigal. Inanna and Geshtinana traveled there together. They found Dumuzi weeping, alone on the dark plains of the underworld. Inanna took his hand. "Dumuzi," she said, "take heart. You will live in the underworld for half the year. When half the year has passed, your sister, since she wishes it, will take your place. When she is called below, you will return to me. When you are called, she will return. So it has been throughout eternity. For half the year, Dumuzi lives with Ereshkigal in the land of the dead. During this time, fields lie foul. The flocks of sheep bear no young. But when Geshtinana comes to take his place, Dumuzi returns to Inanna, the queen of heaven, and spring comes to earth. And that is the tale of Inanna, Queen of Heaven and Earth. You can see her robe of stars, her necklace of lapis, her measuring rod of lapis. She has her golden bracelet and her crown of heaven. And then there, her sister Arishkagul, queen of the underworld. The tale of Inanna is a tale of the divine going into the underworld and coming back out. And we call that a resurrection story. Many tales of the gods speak of a resurrection story. And the number 3, being in the underworld for 3 days and rising again, is a pattern that we see repeated in many tales of the gods, old and new. I hope you enjoyed the story of Inanna. Next week, we will continue changing women and her sisters with the story of Durga, the warrior goddess, a Hindu deity. So I look forward to seeing you next week when we explore the tale of Durga. I hope you had a beautiful, beautiful week. I hope you enjoyed the story, and I look forward to seeing you all real soon. If you enjoyed this, please consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and sharing it with your friends. I appreciate all of you subscribers who continue to return on a weekly basis. Thank you so much for your love and your support. I appreciate you all so, so much. And until next time, take care and infinite blessings.